Hey Nerdologists, it's Tuesday because I forgot that yesterday was Monday. Oops. John Green is a pretty awesome guy, which I'm guessing that most of you are familiar with. And if you have not seen his latest video over on Vlogbrothers channel, you should. It's a gift-giving guide for if you are a fan of one book or show or something. It's recommendations for other books that you will enjoy. So over here on Nerdologies, we decided that we are going to copy him because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So if you enjoy Twilight, or Twilight-like books, I would recommend this series called the Fallen series. This is the first one in the series. And I just said series a lot of times. Whatever. It is really good, actually. It is better than Twilight because I like the writing style a little bit better, or a lot better than Twilight. But the story is equally just as much of a cheesy romance that's really unbelievable. But sometimes that's what you want. Like, you read books for unbelievableness because otherwise you would just live your life because that's believable. I really like it. It's about these angels and this girl that gets reincarnated and star-crossed lovers and all that great stuff that a really good fantasy book will give you. Now, if you are a vampire fan but don't believe Twilight vampires are real vampires and you want your Vlad the Impaler-esque vampire, I would recommend this book, The Historian. It's really thick and really awesome and really too detailed to give you a good synopsis of it. But you should definitely read this book if vampires are your thing. If you were a fan of The Secret Garden when you were a child, I would recommend this book called The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. And actually, Frances Hodgson Burnett, the author of The Secret Garden, makes a cameo appearance in this book where she sees the Forgotten Garden, or learns about the Forgotten Garden in this book, and she gets her inspiration for The Secret Garden. What I really like about this book is the way that it hops around through time, and it follows different women in this family, the different generations, as their stories are told and how the stories of the past are uncovered by the present. I just really like the way that it's executed. This one might sound like a bit of a stretch, especially if you've read both books. You might not agree with me, but if you were a fan of Harry Potter, I would recommend Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. If you are a Doctor Who fan for the same reasons that I'm a Doctor Who fan, which is for the history aspects, I love it when history and fiction are melded together into one thing. I enjoy the sci-fi of Doctor Who, but that's not the main reason I love it. I love it for those episodes that are kind of historical. I would recommend anything by Max Allan Collins. Max Allan Collins has written a lot of books, but he has this, I hesitate to call it a series because there's different characters in every book and they don't go one after another. But he's written some books that are very different than this sort of book. And these are all about historical events and murders that happen there. And there's not real murders. He makes them up. But he takes these historical settings and puts a murder into it and makes it seem so realistic. The first one I read was the Titanic murders, and I seriously had to Google whether or not there was a murder on the Titanic because he made it seem so incredibly realistic, the way he executed the entire book. And last but not least is if you are a Bones fan, I would recommend anything by Bill Bass and John Jefferson if you want nonfiction. And if you are interested in fiction, Jefferson Bass. Jefferson Bass is Bill Bass and John Jefferson. They just took their names and put them together as a pen name. Bill Bass is a scientist at the University of Tennessee, and he made this thing called the Body Farm, which incidentally was in an episode of Bones. And John Jefferson is an author who basically just takes all the information Bill Bass gives him and puts it into words that make good books. But they came up with the story together. So I would definitely recommend in either one of these if you are into forensic anthropology-ish things. And that is it. If you have recommendations for books down in the comments, let me know. And Caroline and Chelsea, I cannot wait to see what you guys have for recommendations. On a non-book related note, I would like to say congratulations, Caroline, for your university's awesome football season. I'm not into football, but I'm very excited for what is happening with you guys and for your unofficial possibility of going to certain football games at the end of the year that you can't officially say you're going to yet. I hope you get to go, and I'm super excited for you. And Chelsea, in response to your question over who we know, whether or not we know who Viheart is, I do know who she is. I do not watch her videos, and I'm not subscribed to her. But I did have a lovely lunch with her at VidCon on accident. I didn't know who I was sitting down to have lunch with. But she is a lovely person, and those things that you made look super cool. So I will have to go check it out and see if I can figure out how to do it, even though it looks incredibly difficult. Caroline, I will see you on Wednesday.